Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I am excited to have Tracy Secombe with me here on the show. She inherited the entrepreneurial spirit from her father and has run her own businesses since she was 18 years old. She ended up burnt out after years of pushing herself to prove she was good enough. When she realized this was her internal driver, she shifted to consistently aligning with her passion and purpose and created her latest business, Soul Pleaser, in a state of ease and flow. So I know, first of all, welcome, Tracy. And thank you for getting up early in the morning to join us because I know that you're on the other side of the world from me. Something that even in your bio speaks to me and so many other people is really just building businesses that weren't fulfilling and maybe doing them for the wrong reasons, or maybe I won't say wrong reasons, but not for the right reasons. So tell us a little bit about what you've done since you were 18 and creating all of these entrepreneurial endeavors. And I'd love to know more about that. What were you doing at such a young age and even the years after that?
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. I actually was in Texas as an exchange student when I was 17. So I was in senior year in Crowley, and my mum and dad came to visit me while I was there, and we were wearing the T-shirts, with all the names on the back of the T-shirts of all of the students in senior year. And we didn't have that back then in Australia all those years ago.
Oh,
And so that was my first business. And so Dad said, what a great idea. And as I said, he was an entrepreneur. So what I learnt from here was get an idea and run with it and just see what happens, which was such a blessing to be able to do that. So that was really fun and exciting, and my first sort of taste of business. And I guess my why at that time was really innocent and really real, because I was young enough to just do it for the fun of it.
mm-hmm.
And I wasn't very attached to the results, which I think is why we were successful. And then that didn't last long because, of course, we were undercut by people that could actually produce the,
Yeah.
T-shirts, etc., and do the printing. So then my next business was a news agency. My brother and I bought a news agency together, and we ran that while I put myself through university to become a physiotherapist. And back then, again, still that young, fun age, it was all a bit of fun, although it was a little bit tiresome to be studying on the weekends and working in the news agency. But you're right. I think sometimes our drivers, and particularly for me, was about success. At a young age, I received praise, which is really positive. I had great parents for succeeding at school and getting good grades and achieving good things. And so for me, there was this insatiable need to achieve. And while that leads to achievement, which is positive, it can also be exhausting and emotionally draining to always feel like you must succeed.
I totally get it. Something also, you use the term burnt out.
Yeah.
So many people, when they're creating their business, whether it's what they thought was their dream business or otherwise, it can turn to burnout pretty quickly. What did that look like for you? And then what did you do to remedy that?
So it's so funny that you asked that, because it took me so long to realize that I was burnt out. So now when I'm working with clients, and you probably see this too, you can see the burnout before they can, because
Mm-hmm.
you've experienced it yourself, and so you know what it looks like. But for me, I at the time had 3 children, which I still have, married, and 3 businesses. So it's ridiculous on paper now, and I can see that.
Yeah.
But at the time, I found it difficult to say no. So if an opportunity came my way, I didn't have a toolbox to assess whether this was a yes or a no. I was a yes girl. So yes fell out of my mouth before I even thought about it. So I ended up in this place where not only did I have 3 businesses, but I worked from the minute I opened my eyes in the morning till the minute I went to sleep at night. And in between working, I did what needed to be done around the house and for the kids. And so burnout for me was not being able to switch off in my mind. That was the most exhausting thing, was that even though when my head hit the pillow through exhaustion, I would fall asleep, by 2 o'clock in the morning, if there was the slightest sound, I was awake again and running through my to-do list and worrying about my clients, and it just consumed me. I didn't have anything outside of work. I was a workaholic, and that was my burnout.
I can totally relate to that. I was working also when I first started my agency side of things. I'm also a yes person, not quite as much as I was, but still pretty good at it. But I was working between, 10 to 15 hour days. And just like you, it was like that took precedence. And then all the parenting, the momming, the making dinner, everything else was just a rush to like get it in and get back to my desk. And when you're creating your own business, that doesn't sound like something you'd create for yourself, does it? Like it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would say I got burnt out. But I was exhausted, and I think I just got fed up more than I got burnt out, and possibly just decided to shift priorities a little bit. What did that look like for you? What did you do next once you decided like, no, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah, so you're a faster learner than me. So some of us need a life-changing event for us to wake up and go, what on earth am I doing? And for me, it was my mum passing away. So she passed on in 2016. And I found out a year before that her breast cancer had metastasized and moved elsewhere. And so I vowed and declared I would take her out to lunch every Friday to myself. And it's just amazing to me that I allowed my obsession with my business to not make that a priority. I certainly spent time with her, don't get me wrong, but I didn't stick to that commitment. And when she passed away, I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, why is this business everything to you when there is so much more to enjoy in life? And I think there was a fear that that's the only way you can run a successful business is by being 100% 24/7.
Yep.
And so that allowed me to fall to my knees and really surrender and say, it's not working. The way I do things makes me reach a goal. I'm successful on the outside, but I have no inner success because I look happy, but I'm not. So it was really some home truths and really recognizing that although I had a passion about what I was doing, one of the businesses I was doing, I had said yes so much that I'd been led from my values. And that's what was really significant. I had to walk away from a business where I did a checklist, and this is what I would say to anyone that feels overwhelmed, is I went through everything I was doing and I asked myself, why am I doing this? And if the answer was because I love it, I kept it. But if it was anything else and it was a little wobbly, like because I'll let everyone down if I stop, that was a big one, then I was like, I'm just going to have to let some other people down because I can't keep sacrificing myself and my family and potentially my health. So that was the turning point for me. And so I walked away from one business. There was another business that I had loved, my physiotherapy company for 22 years, that my business partner was ready to retire. I was like, great, let's sell it. And then Soul Pleaser was born from that.
So did you find it difficult to switch from working so much to not working so much? I don't have a really fancy way to say that, but was it a hard transition, like an awkward transition? I won't even say it was hard, but to go from working 10, 12, 15 hours a day to not. What did that feel like for you?
Well, I didn't know what to do with myself because all I was used to doing was being active. And so I was either in the kitchen cooking and often doing a 3-way hands-free phone call at the same time, which is why I wasn't very good at cooking. My cooking was improved. That I didn't know how to just be. I was addicted to doing. So not only was I addicted to work, and I realize now this is a real numbing technique that we use. I realized that I spent my life mostly in my head, and it prevented me from moving into my heart, which stopped me from feeling any uncomfortable emotions, which actually made me emotionally erratic because I was dependent on things going well to feel good. And if things didn't go my way, then I felt terrible. So I was on an emotional roller coaster, which was also related to the fact that I never had any self-care. So I never gave myself time to just relax. But for me to relax and to, I started to meditate and I started to walk along the beach for the enjoyment rather than for the exercise. Go as fast as you can, listen to a motivational audio. There was a purpose behind everything. But now what I would say, after slowly getting better at it and really understanding that it should be a priority, I know that my business absolutely excels the more I just be, the more I relax, chill out, do the things that feel good. But I didn't know that back then. I thought that my success was proportional to my effort, and most people do. And now the big takeaway for me and the big learning has been that my success is actually proportional to my vibration, which is how I feel. So I needed to make space to even tap into my heart and feel and get out of my head.
This is so wonderful and so timely. I just had a conversation with someone around success and fulfillment. And when you're a high performing, motivated business owner or individual, when you do reach those goals, like you said, it's just another check mark and you're on to the next. There's no celebration. There's no feeling of achievement. It's just the thing that you set out to do and you did it. And then you move on to the next thing. And so what happens is we get to that same point where we have success on paper. We look happy, but we have no fulfillment whatsoever. Something's missing. And I find it very difficult, not as difficult these days, but to unwind a little bit or to allow myself to be. Now, 2020 allowed most of us to take that time, and some of us did different things with it. I was able to step back and just start being instead of keep doing constantly, because I couldn't do as much. There was too many restrictions on everything. And it's really helped me shift a little bit, but I still have the tendency to go back to the do person, right? The forceful action taker. And so tell me more about your business, Soul Pleaser, and who it's for and what it really helps people achieve. Because I think it sounds right up my alley.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty much for the old me. Quite often that's how we follow our calling, is we go through this hero's journey where we experience a challenge and we overcome it ourselves. And then we're like, I wonder if anybody else has experienced that same challenge that I have. And so it's for the old me. And the old me is someone who cares so much about helping other people that they will put everybody else first before themselves. They care so much about being the best version of themselves that they can be, that they're really hard on themselves. And so they're always striving to be better. And I reflect and realize that no matter how much I succeeded or how much I helped someone, it would be the mistakes I would focus on. So instead of celebrating the good I was doing in the world, I was forever going, oh, why did I say that? Oh, I hope she didn't think, or, I hope they didn't, or just rehashing conversations and just very self-critical.
Yeah.
And
maybe even for hours after the event, I have found myself even trying to go to sleep at night, still thinking like, oh, why did I say that? Or again, like you said, like, I hope they didn't take that the wrong way. It's exhausting.
It is exhausting and it's fruitless because we cannot read someone else's mind. They've forgotten about us. They're not thinking about us. But yeah, it's that need, and it's very, very common. a lot of people don't necessarily relate to the term people pleaser, but my program is called From People Pleaser to Soul Pleaser, because I feel so many of us really do care about what other people think. And it's no wonder when you think about the process of growing up, because we need our parents' approval, because they're the ones that are going to look after us. And so from a very young age, if we see that they don't approve, then we feel threatened because we feel unloved, and that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
Our parents are juggling their lives just like we are as parents, and they could be upset about something completely differently, but we can feel like it's directed towards us.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't grow out of that. So then as adults, we're wandering around hoping we can keep everyone happy, and it's an impossible task because they're responsible for their happiness and we're responsible for ours. So the people that come to me feel like there must be more to life. They feel like they're successful on the outside, but there's something missing on the inside. And perhaps there's not enough balance, that they're really good at doing, but not so good at being, and perhaps don't even know what that looks like or what that means. And a little bit afraid that maybe the money will stop or the success will stop if they do slow down. And through experience, not only my own, but my clients, I can promise you that it's the opposite. There's this flow where things fall into place and it's so much easier.
That sounds like heavenly.
Yes, it is.
I have noticed myself when I do slow down and really allow things to happen instead of force them to happen. And I actually just had a conversation with someone earlier today about this, that things do start to flow much easier. And I don't know if you're familiar with human design. It's kind of a woo-woo thing, but I have a great friend that's an expert in human design, and she ran my chart, or whatever you want to call it, and I learned that I'm a generator. And you would think that the term generator means I would just be this Energizer bunny, always wanting to take action and do things and make things happen. And that's how I operated my life and my business for many years, of just always doing, and forcing. And as I learned more about human design, I was actually operating opposite of what I'm supposed to be doing for my own self. And as a generator in this theory, I am a responder. So that means things need to come to me and not me go to them. And I get to respond to them with a yes or a no, right?
Yeah.
And for so long, I felt like it felt like pushing a boulder uphill. It was possible, right?
Yeah.
But man, it was a lot of work, and it was so exhausting and not fulfilling whatsoever. Because once you got to the first stopping point, right, the first goal, you just kept looking up, and there was never an end you could never get to the top.
Yeah.
So
True.
What's an example of someone else other than yourself that's seen success through your Soul Pleaser program, and like, what does that look like for them? Because I think some people go, oh yeah, well, that's great for you, but it's not going to work for me because I'm just too busy and I can't give up all of these things, and I have to please my clients, or I have to please my boss. But I want to know another story that maybe somebody listening can relate to understand that this could work for them too.
Yeah. So because you've mentioned human design, that brings a story to mind. So one of my clients, after she did the Soul Pleaser program, she became much more aware of herself and what she really loves, because what you love can just become buried under everything else. And so when she joined me, she was totally addicted to doing. She was the roll up your sleeves, get things done girl. Married to a farmer, so lives on the land, really tough, and she is an agronomist. So her business was going out to farms, working amongst men, but, she was tough, and she was very, very successful at that and very busy. And so during the course and during her tapping into her inner wisdom and slowing down and prioritizing her self-care, she really felt called to free up some time. And so she was able, and she said that this all fell into place. So she never thought it would be possible to sell her business. A lot of times when we're a service provider, we feel like we don't have something to sell because it's all about us.
Yep.
And so exactly what you're talking about, because of the techniques that she was learning and using, she attracted someone who came and offered her what she could not believe for her business. And she was able to sell off the business and allow herself to semi-retire at a very young age. And so from that place, she has got so excited about human design that she is currently training to be a human design practitioner. And she is beside herself with excitement because she absolutely adores it. And she says, if you'd have asked me 2 years ago, or told me I'd be doing this, I would have laughed at you because I was such a practical, pragmatic person. I would have said, that is woo-woo. That's the word she would have used. And here she is now. Yeah, exactly. And so she is more of herself than she ever knew she could be. She didn't know that this is who she was. And so she's so free and so happy. And another amazing outcome for her, which some people might be able to listen to as well, is she was a real fixer. And so she attracted a husband who has some mental health issues. And so her job, she felt, was to fix him. And she really did the Soul Pleaser program because she thought by doing that she'd be able to fix him. And so instead she realised that the program was for her. And that's another role that we can take on, where we feel like our role is to fix other people.
Yep.
She has been able to let go of being that fixer, and their relationship has gone to a whole new level. And he is finding his own way. He's also doing Soul Pleaser without her having to do it for him. So it's helped her on a health level, a relationship level, and a career level, and certainly an addiction to doing level.
That's fantastic. There's so many terms or words that you've used that I know I can relate to when it comes to being the pleaser. And that's kind of the yes man, right?
Yeah.
And also when it comes to being the fixer, I don't know if it goes away with maturity or awareness, how it moves on. But I was a chronic fixer for many, many years. I'm not quite so much there now, partly because of probably what I've studied, and even most recently studying the law of attraction. And one of the laws within that is the law of allowing.
Yeah.
And for me to be able to realize that I can sit back and just let others, just allow them to have their own experience, and I don't have to control every piece of it. That part was exhausting on itself. It really boils down to control, I guess. Being a yes person also, I think, is a control piece as well, because if I say yes and I'm committed to getting it done, then I'll get it done the way that I want it done, which is being in control. And that it's not sustainable at all.
No, exactly. And it's interesting because I work with so many people like that, and I was like that as well. And for me, I think it's a self-worth issue. I think that we have conditions on our self-worth. So I only feel good about myself if I can fix everyone else's problems. I only feel good about myself if the people I love are happy. I can only be happy if the people I love are happy.
Yeah.
And at one of our retreats, there was a lady there, and she was saying, but I can't be happy when my niece is unhappy. And I'm like, well, how is it helping her for you to be unhappy with her? And what we ended up getting down to through the questioning was that was her love language. So a lot of people actually feel like the way they help others is to join them where they're at and feel what they're feeling. We use the language, I feel you. And so this is where the emotions can be up and down, because if you're going to be upset for everyone else that's upset, then you're going to always join them there. So the new mantra for me is I can help people without joining them where they're at. And in fact, if I maintain my good feelings, I'm actually more help to them. But the control piece as well, I've found with a lot of my clients, started when they felt like they couldn't control anything. So when you're a child and there is emotional stuff going around you and you don't like the way you feel, there's nothing you can do because you're a child. It's up to the adults, you know, in terms of what action you can take. And so you think, I'm never going to feel like I'm out of control again. I'm going to control things so I feel safe. And so then you control what you can. And when I was in Texas, I felt a little out of control. I was 17 and I was living with a different family and I was homesick. So I started to control the food that I ate, and that led to an eating disorder, led to, you know, self-help books, which I'm really grateful for. So there's all different ways that we can control. But I think that if we feel like our self-worth is reliant on anything outside of ourselves, we're going to try to control things that are out of our control so that we can love ourselves. And it's just being able to go, you know what? I'm just okay right now as I am. And from here, I can really follow that calling or that intuition of what I love rather than what I think will make me okay and make other people think I'm okay.
Wow, that's really powerful. There's a lot of information in there and a lot that I can relate to personally. Think about in terms of business, even if you feel out of control, or maybe the sales aren't coming in as much as you'd like, or the client results aren't happening the way that you want them to. Something I've learned about that, by the way, is that every person that comes into my programs, or really any program, the result that they get is up to them. Right? I can lead them and I can give them all the tools, but I cannot control their outcome. I lost so much sleep and so much time worrying about my own contribution through my own programs based on the achievements or productivity of my clients. And every person that has come through any of my programs, they've all been very different. And they all want different things. And I was trying to put everyone in a box and have them want the thing that I wanted them to have. And I don't know if you can relate to that. Maybe people listening can relate to that we think, oh, okay, well, the outcome of my program is you will have an online course ready to launch in 30 days. Well, some people would get into it and not want that outcome anymore. They got in and maybe they learned something else, or they had an epiphany somewhere else or whatever. And so they didn't fit in my box that I created for them. And that was really difficult for me to be okay with. Now I've grown a little bit through that, and I'll just help people where they are and help them go wherever they want to go. Even if it is within the parameters of my program. Have you had that kind of experience with your own programs, thinking like everyone that comes in needs to fit, their results need to fit in my perfect little box, and then they don't? How did you cope with that before you had these skills from Soul Pleaser?
So that's such a great question. So because my transformation from people pleaser to soul pleaser occurred prior to soul pleaser, so the whole soul pleaser was born from my own transformation. So I'm like, I'm going to help other women and men. I have a men's group now, who have been through this. So the business before, yes. So my physiotherapy business, when people were returning to work, they had an injury and they were returning to work, then I wanted to make sure they returned to work. And I had to learn that for some reason there were other things going on where it wasn't actually their goal. Even though it was my goal to help them return to work, it wasn't necessarily their underlying goal. Another company that I was in was a network marketing anti-aging company, and they came to me and I thought I had to help them work their way up the ranks and earn all this passive income. And deep down, they were there for the fun. They enjoyed the events. They just loved the social side of it. And I'm like, okay, so I just had to, at the time I didn't see it, but I can see now. But interestingly, as a client, I've experienced exactly what you're talking about. So I've been a client of a coach who teaches people marketing, and he was, you're not in the group, you're not, engaging. And I messaged him and I said, you know what? I got everything I wanted out of your program in the first 4 weeks. I'm done. You've given me everything I wanted. Let it go. You know, I had to reassure him, I am your happiest customer. I don't need to reach all of these results that you want for me. That's not my goal. So yeah, it's so liberating to be able to speak that to somebody else. Don't worry, this is the thing that I want and I'm responsible for this. And equally as a coach, to just be okay with showing up and really listening to what people want and letting them know whether you can help them get what they want rather than what you want.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times we stick to our guns and say, nope, this is what this is. But the transformation happens it can happen in one coaching call. It can happen in module 4 when out of 12, right? Like you said. So having that pressure off of yourself as a professional, as a coach, as a creator, to allow people to just have their experience and get whatever it is that they need is monumental, in my opinion. It's been a big learning process, though, I'll say. And it still is tough when I see people with so much potential and they just go a different direction. I do tend to potentially push them a little bit, but I've stopped pushing so hard and not having them try to fit in my box again and want what I want for them.
Yeah.
So that's been the biggest, probably the biggest learning experience from the last year in business, not personal life, but in the business side, is to just allow people to come in and do it their way. Even though they're using my methodologies and my teachings and my guidance, people still want to be individuals and they still want to have create their own experience. And if you're forcing everything all the time and trying to keep them in these little boxes, it's not going to work. You're going to become very frustrated, and it's going to show also in the material that you put out for your people.
And that's what I'm teaching in Soul Pleaser, is for people to learn to trust themselves. So even though I'm the coach, I'm like, don't trust me, trust your own experience. So I'll share an example. So they'll ask a question and I'll say, well, in my experience, when I felt like this is what I did and this was the outcome. How does that feel for you?
Right.
And so I just allow them to start to learn to trust themselves, because the reason they've ended up in the program in the first place is they've given away their power to other people.
Right.
And so they've been such a follower of doing the right thing. You know, they were taught to work hard. So they've spent the first 40 or 50 years of their life working hard. And so now I'm introducing a concept that is so foreign to them, which is actually, if you stop working so hard, you're going to get better results. I'm like, you're not going to believe that overnight. So try it out for yourself. Learn to trust yourself. And so I think as coaches, if we can guide people to tap into their inner wisdom, to take what we have learned and then try it out for themselves and test it and tweak it and make it their own, then we're really guiding them to be able to teach themselves.
Yeah. So if somebody is identifying with a lot of the things that we're talking about here, what would be maybe the first step that you could guide them to take to be on the road to having that flow state, having more freedom, having more fulfillment, and becoming the soul pleaser? What would be your suggestion for the first step that somebody should take?
I would say, if you're very busy, so if you fit that, you know, what we've been talking about, where you are addicted to doing and so your life is full, I would do the stock take that I mentioned that I did at the start, which is to write down everything that you do and then ask yourself why you do it. And notice how you feel when the answer comes up, whether it feels good or whether it feels like an obligation. I had a whole pile of obligations, things that I thought I should do. So I dropped those or sometimes modified them. So for example, with my son, he's into musical theatre and I was running him around everywhere. And all I did was tap into the pool of mums and start sharing it, you know, so we didn't stop it, but we modified it. So I wasn't being a hero and doing it all, you know. And there are things that you will just stop doing instantly. As soon as you ask yourself why, you're like, yeah, why am I doing this? I need to stop doing that. That'll make some space. And then when you've created space, I would start to make how you feel your priority. Because at the moment, there's a very good chance that what you do and what you get done is your priority. And shift that around and start to notice how you feel, and notice how you feel in certain circumstances. And you will notice what lights you up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did this to myself right at the beginning, I went, when is the last time I felt lit up? And I realized that it was when I was sharing something with someone and I saw the light come on in their eyes. I saw the penny drop, and I went, I really like having those conversations.
Yeah.
And then I didn't take any action about that. I just went, I'm going to find ways to do more of that. And that's how one thing led to another. An opportunity came my way so that I was able to create the Soul Pleaser business.
That's wonderful. I like the idea of the checklist and I think it's a good idea for anyone to do, regardless really of how you're feeling. I know, especially as a solopreneur or very small business owner, we tend to wear all of the hats. Yeah. And especially if you are a control person, you don't want to give any of those hats away. Yeah. I know that I have a coach that for 3 years, he tried to get me to hire a housekeeper. Yeah. Okay. It wasn't anything to do with my business. But it was something that, I would habitually spend hours every Saturday cleaning the house, because that's when my mother would clean the house, right? Saturdays was the day. Yeah. So I did that. And at first, the story came up like, well, I can't afford that. I don't want to spend my money on that. It doesn't make sense. I can do it myself. I'm really good at it. I want things done a certain way. They're not going to be able to do it the way I want to do it. All these different stories started coming out. And finally, I don't know what happened, that I finally hired someone, and I don't even know how I found them. They came to me. It wasn't like I did not go actively searching it. And I finally broke down and did it. And I only committed, I think, to maybe once or twice a month. It wasn't anything overly financial burden or invasive. And after the first time that I allowed somebody to come in and support me and help do something, even as simple as cleaning my house, the energy shifted. Yeah. And of course I tell my coach, like, I can't believe I took 3 years. And he was like, oh my gosh, I know. I was talking with another really high profile entrepreneur last week that the first thing that they outsourced was somebody to come and do their laundry. They loathed doing laundry, hated it. Yeah. So that was the first thing that they did. And, from there, they found different ways to bring other people in to support them. So of course, I'm talking about ways to outsource or hire out the things you don't enjoy doing. But even the example you gave with the carpooling and just not having to feel like you are the one that has to get it done in order to have it done right. Or to give the persona of Superwoman. Yeah. I know that I also was very guilty of I was very concerned to keep my house clean at all times in case anyone ever just happened to stop by. Yeah. And I think at that time, and it was also the time that I was just working constantly. So it was just adding more to my plate. I think I also had fresh baked cookies or something almost always ready. So, and the reason was I wanted whoever stopped by to go, wow, how do you do all of it? And now I look back, the only people stopping by were my dearest friends. No strangers or anybody will just stop by and just like peek in. Yeah. They don't care if my house is clean or if I have fresh cookies on the counter. Like, I know. But it was something innate in me that I had to keep up this outward persona of perfection or having it all together at all times. And that translated over into business, and it translated over into how I cared for my home, myself. But it was not serving my family at all, because I was just a stressed out mess all the time. Like you said at the very beginning, how you were not emotionally, you didn't say stable, but you said how your emotions would really just go back and forth. Yeah. Mine were I was exactly like that. And now it was almost like you couldn't cope with any kind of change that came into your world because you had it all under control.
Yeah.
And so just taking small steps, like you mentioned, of just evaluating what are you doing with your time and which things do you not want to do at all. Stop doing those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the shift in your life and your business can be related to the thing that you stop doing as opposed to the thing that you start doing.
And it could be something as simple as laundry or something as simple as, for me, I've brought in some support in the sales department for my business. It's just something I don't enjoy doing. It takes so much time. And while I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to offer my program and services to people, I don't enjoy doing the calls.
Yeah.
And it has taken me 2.5 years to get to the point where I actually started initiating conversations with people to come in and support me in that role. It was just, I just wanted to control the whole thing. And there was a lot that came up for me in that process. It was so uncomfortable putting myself out there and actually asking for that help. And luckily I have been through some personal development, and instead of quitting, when I felt that feeling, it was yucky. I wanted to just not talk to anybody else about it and just say, oh, I'll just do it myself. I'll just stay doing it. I just sat back with it and asked myself, why do I feel so uncomfortable right now? And it really boiled down to asking for that help. And but I got through it. And now it's going to be so nice to take that off my plate so I can focus on the things that I love, which is like what you said, having those powerful conversations with people or sharing with others, whether they're in my program or in my groups or wherever, the tactics and the strategies to grow their business the way that I teach, just like you teach people how to grow their own emotional health, basically, is what you're helping them do. So
exactly. And I think we have a genius zone, and it is where we feel just lit up. And I honestly believe that we can spend all of our time in our genius zone. You know, just bit by bit, we delegate out that stuff that's not our genius zone. I have a wonderful virtual assistant, and she's my memory. So I just WhatsApp her and I'm like, don't let me forget this. And so she just takes care of it. And, you know, I don't have to think about it again. And then I'm free again. It's not in my mind. I can just let it go. So there are so many ways that you can be free and present and do what you're here to do, which is what you love. And then you naturally make a difference in the world. I think sometimes when people hear about moving from people pleaser to soul pleaser, they're like, but will I still be nice? Will I still help people? And I'm like, even more. If you fill up your own cup, you actually have more to give. You know, if you are at your wit's end because you're so busy and you don't self-care, then actually you're no good to anybody because you don't have that energy to share.
Yeah, I know. I call it, when I get to that point, I can tell, and my kids can tell, I become a banshee in the house. Like I just start screaming about everything and like, why is this here? Come unload the dishwasher, all these things, instead of just, like chilling out and just letting things take place the way they're supposed to. And it's only because of me and becoming so stressed out on my side. It has nothing to do with anybody else, but it's, you know, whether it's lack of sleep, poor nutrition, working too many hours, not getting the result that I thought I needed to have. It doesn't do your body very good whenever you get to that point.
No. My husband used to say that I was a street angel and a house devil.
That makes total sense.
That summed it up.
Yep. It makes total sense. Like, why can't you be that nice at home, inside? Like,
that's right. Because you've got to let off steam somewhere. So you do it around your poor loved ones.
And that's so sad because those are the people you love the most. And you want to make sure that you are taking care of your business, taking care of yourself, but also taking care of those people in your household too. They're important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I shifted my priorities from business, family, me, to me, family, business, and everyone's happier. Everyone's happier.
And it's one thing I will mention about all these things that we're talking about is that it's okay if it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Even creating your checklist or the list of things that you do, and you see all the places that you want to hire help or get rid of these tasks, but maybe you don't have the financial means to do that yet. Maybe you don't know how to do the hiring of, delegating of that help. It's all a learning process, and it's okay to take some time to grow with it. Just like having the conversation with potential salespeople. Who knew? I had no idea I'd be so uncomfortable doing that. And allowing myself the time to process it and understand my feelings and still continue through it was key. But how fast, really, it's just up to the person how quickly the shift can happen, right?
Yeah.
Some of
Someone
it's an
asked
addiction,
me,
I think, of
yeah,
addicted to the busy.
yeah.
But it can shift quickly as if we want it to.
Yeah, I think that people think because we've done something a certain way for many, many years that it's going to take a long time to change. But what I've noticed with myself and my clients is that it's like riding a bike. So you learn to ride, you're going along, and then you fall off, but you get back on. And so you will get some momentum with the new you doing things differently, but then something will go wrong and you lapse into your old habits.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you're done, and it doesn't mean that it's not possible to try again. So I just say, get back on the bike. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up for that. And that's really how the progression happens. Like, I think about my progression from being even with my emotions rather than on a roller coaster. I would be able to be even from my meditation in the morning till 10 a.m. and then I'd fall off again and then I'd get a little bit further through the day.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've become so good at it, I can spend my time there most of the time. But of course, life happens and things will happen that will cause a negative emotion. You're not going to be happy constantly, but you can just spend a lot more time there, and you have the tools that when you have that drop in emotion, you know what to do to get yourself back up there.
Yeah, that's really important, I think, because we're going to be faced with all kinds of adversity and situations that are going to cause us to need to dig down and pull out some coping skills. Sometimes I don't do it very well. But then those are the times that I also feel guilty or bad that I didn't just sit back for a second and chill out. And normally it's usually with my kids. If I snap at them or get really upset over something that honestly doesn't matter today. So having that ability to be able to handle the obstacles, we'll call it, that come up, which they're going to, regardless of how good you are at this.
Totally.
It's really, really key. So tell us a little bit more about how your program works, what it is, what's the structure of it. Like, I just want to know everything.
Okay, great. So it's a group program and there are 6 steps in the course. So people who join the program get lifetime access to the 6 steps, and the steps are delivered in video format, audio, PDF, and there are workbooks, and you can work through it at your own pace. You also get 12 months access to my closed Facebook group, where we have live Q&As every 2 weeks, and people go in and ask questions in between the live Q&As, and I go in and answer them. I actually encourage people to ask their questions via video because I can read the energy or the emotion behind the question and really get to the bottom of what's going on. And so you get quite a profound shift by me coming back in and answering that via video. The 6 steps are wake up, surrender, follow the signs, so you really tune into your intuition so that you get very intuitive, and that's why you take a lot less action, because your action is inspired rather than you pushing to make things happen. Step 4 is discover you, step 5 is be you, and step 6 is experience bliss.
Nice. That's lovely. How can people find you or learn more about the program?
So my website is my name, tracysecombe.com.au, and you can also download my free book, which is Find the Real You and Love Her, so you can live the life you choose. As I said, I started off just working with women. I do have a men's group. The book is relevant, even though I use the word her to everybody. I thought it was only us girls, but it turns out it's not.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so but there's lots of free resources on my website, and I've got a free group on Facebook called Soul Pleaser as well.
Oh, wonderful. Great. I'm going to make sure that we have all of those links in the show notes. So anybody, you can click below and get any of those resources to get into Tracy's group and to start being a soul pleaser. I think I'm going to go join the group. I didn't know that you had that. So I'm really excited to be a part of that. I've learned so much from our talk today. And if nothing else, I've also been validated that I'm not alone, right? I'm not here just this weirdo wanting to control everything or afraid to outsource and give away some of the stuff or to slow down. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And hopefully the people listening can also relate to many of the things we talked about and also know that they're not alone either. So thank you so much for being here.
Welcome.
And I hope I hope we can do this again soon.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Amanda.
Thank you. We'll see you soon. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. Subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't done that already. And if you'd like to check out more of our videos, go ahead and just tap the screen right here.